Hello and welcome to the Candlelight Podcast, where I, Mohamed Abdalla, talk about different topics, including some of my favorites, which are movies, martial arts, and philosophy. Let's start with this week's quote, guys. Humility is the first rule of martial arts. Either you learn humility quickly, or you leave because your ego can't handle losing repeatedly. George St. Pierre. Yep, this is a quote from the great George St. Pierre, arguably the greatest martial artist of all time. He is an MMA fighter. Those of you who know him, who know about the UFC, he's kind of a big deal there, like the biggest deal, arguably. And he uttered this quote, which is straightforward because you can't you can't have an ego and go into martial arts because as as someone who has experienced martial arts firsthand, because that's what I love to do. You can't really have an ego there. You have to be humble. You have to understand that you win some, you lose some. For example, I practice jiu-jitsu, and in jiu-jitsu we spar, and when we spar and we roll, we have to tap the other person out, make them submit them, make them quit. And this goes both ways. You either get tapped or you submit the person. So no one has ever won all of his sparring sessions. You will lose repeatedly, frequently. Everyone, even the greats. This is George St. Pierre himself, a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and a double champ in mixed martial arts. He's saying you should be humble because you will lose repeatedly, which is true. I have been on the mat several times. A lot of times where I've lost and a lot of times where I've won. It goes both ways. It really depends on you whether or not you want to learn, and if you want to cast aside your ego just to, in order to actually learn, I plan to, or if you want to be, you think you're the hot stuff and you just want to go in there thinking you're going to win every time, well, that's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. You win some and you lose some. So you got to check your ego at the door as soon as you enter the dojo. You got to be humble. That's something that's true not only for martial arts, but for everything else as well. You will always find obstacles. You'll always, encounter failure. But the true failure, and this is kind of going to another quote, the true failure is not having tried in the first place. If you try and you quote unquote fail, you didn't really fail, because you're gonna pick yourself back up and actually try again, and then you'll succeed. That's how it works. So it's not really that you have failed. It's just that you need to pick yourself back up and keep on going. Yeah, I'm kind of mixing a bunch of quotes here now. Anyway, that's not what's important. Let's talk about martial arts for a bit, even though we already talked about a bit about martial arts. I not only enjoy jiu-jitsu, I really enjoy a variety of it. I used to do boxing, I used to do taekwondo, but jiu-jitsu was really the very first martial arts I've ever practiced, and it's the martial arts that I have a lot of experience in, a lot of real experience in, because, for example, taekwondo, I self-taught. I was self-taught in that discipline. I didn't really go to a dojo and actually learn the basics properly and go to spar and everything. No, I actually just, got a heavy bag and started training myself and started stretching at home, training at home, practicing my kicks, practicing my cardio, practicing, my balancing, how well I can balance on one foot in various poses. So it's really something that I taught myself. Unlike boxing and jiu-jitsu, where I actually went to a club and trained. So I really enjoy a variety, man. I'd say this. I'll say this, but it's not really true because it's kind of harder. It's kind of harder to say that I've done it. I'll say that I trained Kung Fu for a while. Even though I haven't really trained Kung Fu, I just kind of copied a few YouTube tutorials, which is exactly what I did for Taekwondo, except that in Taekwondo, at least I knew I got the results that I needed by seeing how high my kicks were going and how flexible I was and how, just how competent I was in kicking. But in kung fu, it's not really something that you can just practice by yourself, even though that's, what it's shown to be. You have to also apply it, you know? Like, you can't just kick a bag and like, oh, okay, I know Kung Fu now. No, you kind of have to see how well you can apply the technique, which I guess is true for Taekwondo as well, but Taekwondo, you just have to kind of kick. Kung Fu, not to take anything away from Taekwondo and its applicability, if that's the correct word, but Kung Fu, there's so many different styles of Kung Fu, and you have to like train them with someone and have someone train you. It's not something you can really self teach. I'd argue boxing is something you're able to self teach to an extent. So is Taekwondo, but and Jiu-Jitsu actually you can't really self teach jiu-jitsu. It's something that you need a partner to spar with, to train with. So I guess what I'm trying to get to here is that all martial arts are, it's like hands-on work. You have to practice these moves in, with someone, not even in a club or a dojo, just someone who can help you improve. For example, you practice a certain kind of choke in jiu-jitsu and you try it on someone who's trying to resist that choke. And if it works, it worked. Now you have your answer, you have your result, whether or not this thing works or not. But, some other if you do it by yourself, you're not really getting the results that are desired. It's really good to train martial arts with someone. And hey, who's an amazing who a bunch what group of people are actually great at doing that, practicing together and stuff? Well, there's this YouTube channel called Martial Club. You guys should check it out, by the way. It's really cool because, they're really into like the martial arts spirit of, training kung fu and kind of keeping that traditional martial art alive. And they really, man, they go hard. They're amazing. These guys are so like athletic and so amazing what they do. You should check them out on YouTube. They're not necessarily, putting up videos where they fight. They're like putting up videos where they're kind of doing their own movies, martial arts movies, kung fu movies, like Jackie Chan and Yuan Biao and Sammo Hung back in the day. They used to, Hong Kong action cinema. They made amazing like kung fu movies and fight scenes and all and whatnot. And this is what martial club kind of like kind of uh, keeps the flame of keeps the flame of that burning. They're just doing they're just like really enjoying themselves by making these like fight scenes all like where they throw the craziest moves, and it's just amazing. It's just so astonishing to see that someone can achieve that level of skill. They're very talented. You guys should check them out. They're pretty cool. Martial Club, I've been following them for years, and yeah, I'm just like always in awe of what they can do. And yeah, they reach such a crazy level of awesomeness, shall I say? Yeah, I really enjoy checking their stuff out and several other people. If you want more of more of practical fighting tips, go to Fight Tips. Fight Tips on YouTube with Shane Faison. He does. Man, this guy, I've been following him for years as well. He's based on he bases his tips on Muay Thai kickboxing slash boxing, and he really is kind of in that MMA scene where he tells you this is how you punch, this is how you kick, this is how you kind of dodge the punch, block the punch. He's not really more into the like Eastern martial arts like kung fu or oh, by the way, do you know that the term kung fu really just means hard work? It just means like hard work. It's not necessarily martial arts. Not even it's not even one specific martial arts. It's just several different types of martial arts all under the umbrella of kung fu. For example, you've got Wing Chun, you've got Bagua Zhang, you've got Hongga, you've got Tai Chi. These are all regarded as kung fu, but they're not all the same. They're all different. You've got Shaolin as well, Northern Shaolin, Southern Shaolin. So many different kinds. So many different arts that exist, and they're pretty cool. Oh, by the way, the Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon, quote unquote cartoon, uh, animated TV show. I say cartoon because it's like kind of like a blend of anime and cartoon. At the same time, it's not necessarily only for kids. It's such an amazing show that that has so many life lessons to teach and such great, writing and, character arcs that you really just benefit from learning all these things. It's a really good show. I really recommend you guys to check it out. It really and one of the amazing things about the show, one of the many amazing things about the show, is that they have these four different styles of fighting in the show, and they're all fictional in the show, but they're based on real life kung fu styles. Like Bagwazang, like Tai Chi, like Northern Shaolin and Hungar, these four disciplines of Kung Fu. It's really interesting. Oh, let's talk a bit about Kung Fu movies, because I mentioned how Martial Club, the YouTube channel, they really, revived that spirit of martial arts movies, Kung Fu movies specifically. They it's very reminiscent of their work is very reminiscent of the old Jackie Chan movies where he does work with his brothers, his the brothers he was raised with, um, like Yuan Biao and Sammo Hong. What movies can Oh yeah, so for example, just to give you a few movies, all of which you should watch, by the way, very good entertainment. um, Project A, uh, Meals on Wheels on Meals, rather Wheels on Meals, and I was gonna say Meals on Wheels. Uh, Dragons Forever. You've got Man, there's so many. There's such a huge list. Anyway, and you've got the Jet Li movies, obviously. Jet Li as well. Amazing, amazing films. Like Once Upon a Time in China, and Legend of Fist of Legend. Oh, Fist of Legend. What? That movie itself is legendary. And Donnie Yen. Oh man, Donnie Yen, who's been on fire for the past 15 years in the kung fu movie scene, with such movies such as Ip Man and what else? Flashpoint and Chapeau Lang. Amazing, just really cool. Martial arts movies based in China. Oh, not it's not technically it's not based in China. Well, technically it is based in China, but officially it's based in Hong Kong. Jet Li movies are Chinese, mainland Chinese, and Jackie Chan and Donnie Yen movies are from Hong Kong. So that's where they're based, at least. And they do collaborations together, and man, they just make amazing films. They just make amazing films, and I'm really into that. I used to be, at least. I used to be at least into that martial arts scene where was based off of Asia, where not even in China only. You've got like the likes of Tony Jaa from Thailand, who's making amazing Muay Thai movies. Like what movie? What was that one movie? What was that? Ong Bak. Yeah, that movie where he has to find out where the missing statue, missing head. What was it? Yeah, the missing head of a statue that belonged to his tribe is, and he fights off a bunch of thugs, and man, it's just awesome action. And also the raid from Indonesia. Man, these guys, blew the roof off of the place with their movies. The raid 1 and 2, crazy, crazy good action. We haven't seen the likes of it before. So anyway, yeah, as you can tell, I'm really into that stuff. Really into martial arts. It's stuff that's just really interesting to me. Anyway, and speaking of staying in shape and being disciplined, this is cool. It's I've been staying in shape. These past few weeks, remain disciplined, but with my diet specifically, and I kind of threw it all away just to enjoy Hagelela this Friday. Oh, by the way, Hagelela, it's a tradition that we have here in the Emirates, in the United Arab Emirates. Oh, not just in the Emirates, in the Gulf region in general. We've got, but it's known as in different names. It's known in different names in different places in the Gulf. So in the UAE, we have Hagelela. In Qatar, they have Gargaan, and it's just different names everywhere. But what it is just like it's kind of like think of it as Halloween, but without the dressing up. Rather, the dressing up is just traditional clothes that we have in our cultures. So you just kind of go around in the neighborhood, from door to door and collect candy. That's basically it. The kids do that. What we did this Friday, however, because it's COVID, it generally the tradition of going around the neighborhood collecting candy, it's kind of dying out, and specifically with COVID now, it's that's not something we did. We just kind of like went to our grandma's house and just kind of gave away candy. Our aunts just me and my mom just went to the candy store, bought a different bunch of traditional candy that we find here. Not like not like Kit Kat or Snickers where you'd find it everywhere in the world. No, specific stuff that you'd find here in this region, like back in the day. So we just kind of like got some candy. My aunts got some candy. My grandma got some candy, and we just just were like a candy dispenser for the children. At my grandma's house because we have a lot of kids there. A lot. I have a lot of little cousins. It was really fun. It was a fun thing to do, and like I said, I kind of stayed in shape and stayed disciplined with regard to my diet. But then I kind of threw it all away and enjoyed myself some candy. But hey, I don't regret it because it's awesome. It's one night a year, and just enjoyed myself. Anywho, um, what else have been doing? Oh, one of the ways I stayed fit, other than martial arts training and lifting weights, something that I like to do, I I played paddle actually. The paddle, the what's it called? It's like a tennis. It's a sport that's like tennis, and it's really cool. The way if you don't know about it, it's like I said, like tennis, but instead of the rackets that you have like these wooden rackets that are differently it's shaped very similarly but are different, and you've got like a cage around you, and this cage has a fence, like a chain link fence type of thing, and some glass, glass behind you. I don't know how to explain it exactly. Look it up. It's a pretty cool sport, and it's a really good calorie burner. You really stay in shape, stay fit because you move around a lot. The whole game, you just move around a lot. It's pretty cool. You guys should check it out. Oh, there was this other thing that I had in mind as well. Oh no, what was that? I had something in my head I want to talk about as well, other than paddle. When I mentioned paddle, that kind of came into my head as well. What is it? Uh, can't remember. Can't seem to remember. But anyway, so yeah, staying in shape. It's a pretty good game. Oh, I just remembered what I wanted to say. Me and my cousins, we hung out this weekend. We went to Top Golf in the UAE, Imart's Golf Club, and played some mini golf actually. You get like nine or 10 holes that you just kind of have to play, and whoever gets the least amount of shots or putts per hole, is the one that wins. We add those numbers up over the course of 10 holes, and there you go. So as we were going to the golf club, we kind of got into this huge, hilarious argument about whether or not golf is or should golf be considered a sport. And guys, I started this kind of like argument off by saying golf is not a sport. Golf is not a sport. Anything that an elderly person can excel at is not a sport. It's not. It's just not. It's something you just have to get a get a club and bend down and hit a ball. That's it. And then wherever it goes, just like hit it some more until it goes down in a hole. Come on, it doesn't require athleticism. It doesn't require that. Yeah, we got into a huge argument where my cousin was like, "No, it does require athleticism because you're playing golf, professional golf for hours on end." It's like, yeah, obviously, if whatever you play for hours on end is gonna require athleticism. You can't you can't jog for hours on end without getting tired, and jogging is not a sport. So yeah, golf is not a sport. Hey, whatever you guys think about this kind of like debate we had, please let me know. Let me know what your guys' opinions are. So it's like, yeah, I don't think it should be considered a sport, but hey, to each their own. So we even looked up the definition of a sport, which was very broad. I remember it being very broad, so I can't disagree with it. But anyway, speaking of sports, real sports, mixed martial arts, MMA. So what is the news on MMA this week? Well, Hamza Chimaev, who retired sadly because of corona complications, COVID complications, said he is going to come back. He kind of retired out of the blue because, COVID complications and how bad it affected his lungs and how he can barely even walk up a flight of stairs without gassing out, without needing to catch his breath. So he decided to retire. But then he was convinced to come back by Dana White, and he decided himself that he's going to get better and then come back. So I really hope this guy, when he came in, he was just like amazing potential because he destroyed 3 different dudes as soon as he arrived at the UFC. Like within 3 months, he destroyed 3 guys. And so his record stands at 9-0 in MMA. So really interesting potential, but could be hampered by the COVID complications. Maybe his potential is gone due to COVID, and that would really suck if that was true. But I hope it's not. I hope he comes back with a bang and blows us all away again. So, in other news, UFC 260 is this weekend. Yes, so UFC 260, headlined by Stipe Miocic, the heavyweight champion, versus the #1 contender at heavyweight, Francis Ngannou. That's a crazy fight. It's the second time they make this fight. I talked about this before. It's the second time they make this fight. The first time, Ngannou was just KOing people left and right, and Stipe shut him down with an amazing game plan of wrestling and just controlling him on the mats and against the cage. It was really cool to see, such a well thought out game plan and such a well executed game plan as well by Miocic. Really cool that he shut Francis down like that. But I do hope Francis gets the win, in this rematch, because I think it's really better for humanity at large, for the greater good. Francis, a guy who, fought his way out of Africa, fought his way out of, like we mentioned the story, from Cameroon to Nigeria to Morocco, all the way to, France, and then now in the U.S. I really hope this guy wins because he deserves it, and it's gonna be an inspiration for many more, I think the greater good would be on the side of Francis. So you've got that fight, which is a rematch, and you've got Volkanovski versus Ortega, which is a canceled bout. Sadly, they canceled that fight because something to do with COVID again. Man, that's such a good fight that was just scrapped, sadly. But hey, what can you do? And then you've got Vicente Luque versus Tyron Woodley. T Wood. Man, let me tell you guys, if Tyron Woodley loses this, I just can't see him continuing in the UFC. He's already lost 3 fights, 15 rounds. He's lost the past 15 rounds of all of his fights, and it was so good as a champion. I don't know what happened. He did fight 3 top 5 guys, which is understandable of why he would lose 3 times, but still, man, he didn't even win 1 round of those 15. But now he's fighting Vicente Luque, who I believe is ranked number 11 at welterweight. Let's see how he does. If he doesn't do well, I think it's time to call it a day at the UFC. And after that, you've got Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida. Sean O'Malley, who recently lost his O. He used to be, I think, 12-0, but now he's 12-1 because he lost his most recent fight. He's hoping to bounce back and get the, get the Sugar Show rolling once again and garner back some hype. Let's see what he does. He was really good before he lost, but before he lost, he looked amazing, and he lost in a very interesting way. He got kicked in the calf, and it hit a nerve in the calf, which deadened his leg, and he just can't move on it anymore, and he just got taken down and bam, 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 elbows to the face, and he lost the fight. And let's see if he bounces back. And then this card is amazing so far. Even with the canceled fight, canceled featherweight title fight, it still looks awesome because you've got, like I mentioned, Miocic versus Ngannou, Vicente Luque versus T Wood, Sean O'Malley versus Thomas Almeida, and there's 2 more fights that are awesome on the prelims as well. Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov, Habib's cousin, fights Jared Gooden. Let's see how well he does. And then after that, you've got, before that, the very first fight that starts the entire card is Abu Azatair versus Marc-André Barriol. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So you've got these two interesting fights of two Muslim fighters. So naturally, I'm with home team. I'm gonna, support my guys, and so that's five good fights to look out for. It would have been six had the featherweight title fight not got scrapped. But there you go. So these are what we have to look forward to, and man, I am looking forward to this. Oh, and so Stipe Miocic, his last three fights, I believe, were against Daniel Cormier. Now, Daniel Cormier beat him in the very first fight. Daniel Cormier beat him in the very first fight, and then the second fight, Miocic won. Those two, DC knocked Miocic out in the first one. Miocic knocked DC out in the second, and then the third, Miocic just outclassed DC and beat him by decision. And now he's fighting Ngannou again. So Ngannou has just been obliterating people left and right. Everyone other than Miocic, he just knocked out. Oh, and Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis and Ngannou was a very weird and boring fight that should be run back because it's definitely going to be interesting to see the fight happening again. But man, that fight was boring. So anyway, DC and Stipe, they fought three times. That was a trilogy fight. That was a trilogy between them on who becomes the heavyweight champion. And so they definitely buried the hatchet. They have no hate towards each other. They're cordial. They're professionals. And that that really displayed itself when DC was on a panel with Miocic, where a bunch of reporters and fighters and analysts sat down with the champ to talk to him. DC busted out two controllers for a PlayStation 4 and challenged Stipe to fight not in real life, but in the UFC 4 video game. So he just handed him like the PS4 controller, and he had one himself, and they had a screen ready with the PS4 fight of between them two, and they just kind of went at it, and in the PS4. So that was a surprise to Stipe. Cormier, he like kind of got this. Oh, sorry, I just hit my leg on the desk. So DC had this set up so that they could fight once more to settle the score and to see who's really the better fighter between them. And the funny thing is, as soon as they started playing, where DC played as himself, DC, and Stipe played as himself, Stipe, they fought each other in the game. And the funny thing is, as soon as the game started, Stipe was like, "How do you punch?" And then Daniel's like, "You haven't played this before?" He's like, "No, I play Warzone." So they just had fun, man. They just kind of like duked it out in the game. Really just kind of like a lighthearted way. It was very wholesome, very cool to see. And Daniel ended up winning by knockout in the game. So there you go. And then they kind of like, gave each other a high five. And it was really cool to see. Really cool to see two guys who tried to take each other's head off for 3 different fights for 50 minutes total. They can just sit down later on and like chill, relax together, just vibe. It was really cool to see. That level of professionalism, really admirable. Really cool of both guys. And man, they're just two of the greatest of all time when it comes to this sport. Two of the top 10 guys ever the top 10 best guys to ever do it in the sport. Really cool to see. Anyway, guys, I'm approaching the 30-minute mark, and I do not want to take more of y'all. I was going to say your and y'all, so I mixed them and said y'all. That was weird. I don't want to take any more of your time. So, this was the Candlelight Podcast by yours truly, Mohamed Abdalla. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you come back for more. And once again, humility is the first rule of martial arts. Either you learn humility quickly, or you leave because your ego can't handle losing repeatedly. See you guys in the next one. Peace.